Moving on to science and tech from the month of July, critical information infrastructure. Now, the Union Ministry of Electronics and IT, that is MeitY, has declared IT resources of ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, and UPI managing entity NPCI as critical information infrastructures. Now, the Information Technology Act of 2000 defines critical information structures as computer resources, the incapacitation or destruction of which shall have a debilitating impact on national security, economy, or public health, or safety. Now, under the Act, the government has power to declare any database, IT network, or communications infrastructure as CII to protect that digital asset. Any person who secures access or attempts to secure access to protected systems in violation of the law can be punished with a jail term of up to 10 years. Now, protection of CIIs in India. National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center was created in 2014. It is the nodal agency for taking all measures to protect national critical information infrastructure. Now, function of NCIIPC to guard CIIs from unauthorized access, modification, use, disclosure, disruption, incapacitation, or distraction. To monitor and forecast national level threats for to CIIs for policy guidance, expertise sharing, and situational awareness for early warning or alerts. Now, moving on to Niti Aayog's report on two-wheeler EV market forecast. Now, Niti Aayog and Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council have released a report titled Forecasting Penetration of Electric Two-Wheelers in India. The report has predicted 8 scenarios for analyzing the future penetration of electric two-wheelers in the country. These are performance-driven, low battery cost, technology-driven, incentive-driven, and optimistic, among others. In an optimistic scenario, the report forecasts 100% penetration of electric two-wheelers in Indian market by the financial year 2026-27. Now, in technology driven scenarios where the current incentive are withdrawn by 2024, the report predicts 72 penetration by 2031. Now, there are certain constraints. The report has also identified four broad constraints for the 8 scenarios in terms of installed vehicle manufacturing capacity and available charging infrastructure. Now, full constraints where both vehicle production and charging infrastructures are constraints. Production constraints where only vehicle production is a constraint. Charge constraint where only the charging infrastructure is a constraint. No constraint. The recent petrol hike and positive mindset about EVs could also play a pivotal role in the switch to electric vehicles. However, the higher battery costs and higher dependency on exports for imports on EV components and subsystems may affect domestic manufacturing capabilities and other policy related measures. The report has also called on to the stakeholders to increase the penetration of charging points across the country and said that the safety of EVs will be an important issue for widespread adoption of EVs. Now, regarding TFAC, Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council is an autonomous organization set up in 1988 under the Department of Science and Technology to look ahead in the technology domain, assess the technology trajectories, and support innovation. Moving on to Niti Aayog report on green hydrogen. Niti Aayog has released a report titled Harnessing Green Hydrogen Opportunities for Deep Decarbonizations in India. Now, green hydrogen is a hydrogen gas produced through electrolysis of water using renewable power. Electrolysis is an energy intensive process for splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. Now, the report predicted that hydrogen demand in India could grow more than fourfold by 2050, representing almost 10% of the global hydrogen demand. In the longer term, steel and heavy duty truckings are likely to drive the majority of the demand growth, accounting for almost 52% of the total demand by 2050. Now, certain benefits of adoption of green hydrogen. Adoption of green hydrogen will result in a 3.6 gigaton of cumulative CO2 emission reduction between 2020 and 2050. Energy import savings from green hydrogen can range from $246 billion to $358 billion within the same period. Beyond this financial savings, the energy security that green hydrogen provides with translate to less volatile price inputs for India's industries as well as strengthen India's foreign exchange situation in the long run. Recommendations given by the report to adopt green hydrogen. It has recommended tax breaks like reduction or exemptions of GST and custom duties on green hydrogen production, facilitate investment through demand aggregation and dollar bias based bidding for green hydrogen, set up green hydrogen corridors in participation with states starting with three such corridors and funding startups working in this segment, promote export of green hydrogen and green hydrogen embedded products through a global hydrogen alliance, initiate green hydrogen standards and a labeling program. Moving on to three new exotic subatomic particles discovered at CERN. The Large Hadron Collider, that is LHC, has observed three new particles, that is pentaquark and a pair of tetraquarks. The Large Hadron Collider is a giant complex machine built to study particles that are the smallest known building blocks of all things. It is a 27-kilometer long track looped buried 100 meters underground on the Swiss French border. It has been built by the European Organization for Nuclear Research, that is CERN, between 1998 and 2008 in collaboration with 10,000 scientists from hundreds of universities and laboratories. It is the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator. Now, experiments conducted at LHC. Atlas is the largest general purpose particle detector experiment at LHC. The compact muon solenoid experiment is one of the largest international scientific collaborations in history with the same goal as Atlas, but which uses a different magnet system design. Now, in 2012, scientists at CERN discovered Higgs boson, or the God particle, during the LHC's first run. The Higgs boson is the fundamental particle associated with Higgs field, which is a field that gives mass to other fundamental particles such as electrons and quarks. Peter Higgs, who predicted the particles, was awarded Nobel Prize for Physics in 2013. Now about quarks, pentaquarks and tetraquarks. Quarks are the elementary particles that come in six flavors: up, down, charm, strange, top, bottom. They usually combine together in groups of twos and threes to form hadrons, such as the protons and neutrons that make up the atomic nuclei. But they can also combine into four quarks and five quark particles called tetraquarks and pentaquarks. These exotic hadrons were predicted by theorists about 6 decades ago, around the same time as conventional hadrons, but they have been observed by the Large Hadron Collider and other experiments only in the past 20 years. So these are the ordinary matters, which consists of atom, nuclei, and the proton. And exotic matters are that which creates these particles. Moving on, HPV vaccine developed by SSI. Serum Institute of India, that is SII, has developed a vaccine, Servavac, against human papilloma virus. It has received Drug Controller General of India's approval for market authorization. Now, about Servavac. Servavac is India's first quadrivalent human papillomavirus vaccine. It is intended to protect women against cervical cancers. The vaccine is based on VLP, that is virus like particles similar to hepatitis B vaccine, and provides protection by generating antibodies against HPV virus L1 protein. Now, the approval for this vaccine will allow the government to procure enough HPV vaccines at special price to vaccinate nearly 50 million girls aged 9 to 14 years in India who are waiting to receive the vaccine. This will be a huge step to accelerate cervical cancer elimination in India and globally. Now, about cervical cancers occurs in the cell of cervix, the lowest part of the uterus that connects to vagina. It is a common sexually transmitted infection. HPV is responsible for more than 95% of the cervical cancer cases, and it kills more than 60,000 women in India every year. Cervical cancer is preventable as long as it is detected early and managed effectively. Worldwide, cervical cancer is the second most common cancer type and the second most common cause of cancer death in women of reproductive age, that is, women from the age of 15 to 44. India accounts for about a fifth of the global burden of cervical cancer. That'll be it.